Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with my TBR cart, which needs some rearranging here. There are books that I would like to take off, books that don't spark joy when I look at them, when I'm like, oh, what if I pull this from what if I roll this book, because that's what I've been doing with my TBRs. Most months, unless I have something big going on, I roll and pick a corresponding book. So some of these need to be put back on my shelf. And that doesn't mean that they're books that I need to unhaul because I'm never going to read. They're just books that are no longer like books that I'm most excited to pick up like immediately. There's just a couple on here. Also, it has some space. Before this thing was jam-packed. I had books in the front. I had books in the back here. This top part stays open really, except for this part stays open for books that I've brought in and haven't shelved yet, which, as you can see, this month, there's only 2 of them so far, which is not bad. But I need to take some things off. I need to put some things on. And I thought that you could be here for that. Come along for the journey. So, what's here? I don't know. Some shit. This one I put on recently. A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This one is Staying. Semiosis by Sue Burke. Colonists from Earth wanted the perfect home, but they'll have to survive on the one they found. Okay, another life form. I think this one will stay. The Woman with the Worm in Her Head and Other True Stories of Infectious Disease. I think this one's gonna go back on my shelf. I did just read this author, Pamela Nogami's other book, which was similar. Although that one was specifically about like bites and stings and things like that, but it was another collection of like medical stories, so I think this one's gonna go back on my shelf for now. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I never read this. I think because I was switching around schools so often when I was at that time where my school would have read that. I was going to a church school where definitely this was not in the curriculum. So I've always wanted to read it. Then I saw this, look at this fucking excellent copy at Barnes & Noble. It's a Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. Oh, The Interest by Stephen King. Okay, I'm gonna keep this on my TBR cart for now. King of Battle in Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. What did I read? I read one of her other books and wasn't like super stoked about it. I think that was the Hades Persephone one. Does that sound right? So I think this one I'm going to put back on my shelves for now. These need a good dusting on the top. This is the room. This room goes to like our backyard, so it gets like, I mean, it's just fucking dust here anyways because we live in the desert, basically. But this room gets dusty and just like little tiny debris more than the other parts of the house. I also have Human Monsters on here, a horror anthology. This is edited by Sadie Hartman and Ashley Sawyers. You might know them as the wonderful ladies who do Nightworms. This is going to stay. I need to sit on a pillow because my ass, my back issue is not resolved yet. It is getting better, but it's not gone. And sitting on the tile floor is probably not a good idea. But here I am. Okay, I also have on here Blind Sight by Peter Watts. Okay, I think I do want to keep this one, but let's see. 2 months ago, innumerable alien objects surrounded Earth, screaming as they burn their way into our atmosphere. Something talks out there, but not to us. Weird. Who should be sent to find out? Send a linguist with multiple personality disorder? A cyborg biologist who can't feel his own flesh? A pacifist warrior? A vampire resurrected by the voodoo of paleontologists? A man missing half his mind since childhood? Okay, yeah, this one's staying. That sounds, I mean, like, I bought this because I've heard it's good. I've been told it has aliens, which is like something I love and something that frightens me, but I don't always stumble across alien stories that I find frightening, you know, but I've been told that this one is really good. So it's been on my cart, but a little refresher on what it's specifically about really reminds me why it's here. Okay, and then this one is in the back. Parasite by Darcy Coates. Quite a few creepy sci-fi books on here. Do I leave it because I'm interested in creepy sci-fi, or because I have other creepy sci-fis on here, do I put it back? I'm gonna put this one in a maybe pile. That's kind of silly and weird. Why is there a maybe pile? It's either do or don't. I think I'm just gonna put this one back on my shelf for now. I also have Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. This is a thriller. I think I'm going to put this one back on my shelf for now. Gather the Daughters by Jenny Melamed. This one is like hard-hitting. Okay, it says, a smoldering debut about an insular community on an island at the end of the world and the girls who start to question the rules that bind them. I believe they start like marrying their daughters way too young, marrying off their daughters, kind of a thing. That kind of hard-hitting. I'm gonna leave that on here. And then The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. This one is staying. I've wanted to read this for a long time. I really should just pick it up. Delilah S. Dawson, I've really loved the 2 books that I've read from her so far. Then we've got String Follow by Simon Jacobs. I know that this one is one where I think it's dual timeline. It's something that happened in the past, but I think I'm gonna put this back on the shelf for now. And then Tomb of Gods by Brian Moreland. This one, I think I'm gonna keep on here. This hits that like horror, adventure, like exploration thing that I like, in the vein of The Ruins, in the vein of The Anomaly. What else? In the vein of other books I've read. What else is like this? What the River Knows, but like with horror instead of just like historical fiction, or that book had a little bit of fantasy in it. Things like that. But this one is a horror novel, and I've wanted to read it. Also, Red X by David Demchuk. I think I would like to keep this on my cart for now. This is about men disappearing in Toronto. It really sounds to me like the Bruce MacArthur killings. A man named Bruce MacArthur who was targeting men of color, and their murders went unsolved for way too long. This man did, you know, this man was committing crimes for way longer than he should have been allowed to, partly because, you know, his victims were immigrants, they were people of color, they were people that were seen as like the lesser dead, you know, gay men, you know, they were gay men also on top of it. So I'd like to read this. I feel like there might be parallels to that. Then Abnormal Statistics by Max Booth III. This is a short story collection, and this one I'm keeping. Okay, there's also the Awasawa Murders by Riku Onda. I think this one I'm putting back on my shelf. This one takes place in the 70s. There is a incident at a birthday party where 17 people died. They're poisoned, or are they? Kind of a thing, maybe, I don't know. Find out about it at some other time. Okay, now this one is definitely staying. This one, I've wanted to read for so long. This is The Devil of Dan King by Mo Hader, and this is about a woman who goes to Japan. It says she's chasing a piece of lost film footage shot during the notorious Nanking massacre, which is why I bought this book, because that's a piece of history that I find very, like, awful and very interesting. So, oh, there it is. There it is, folks. Now, The Forest by Lisa Quigley, I think this is going to go back on my shelf. Seems interesting, of course. I will read it, but I don't think that this one is a priority anymore. It's not one that I'm dying to get to at the moment. But it is about, I think this one is like a folk horror. The woman in this is battling debilitating postpartum anxiety, things like that. Creepy forest. Okay, one that I'm keeping, Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. This is about a woman with a terrible mother-in-law. She also loses another mother figure in her life, and then her mother dies. Or maybe she's maybe losing the mother figure in her life. But like for sure her mother-in-law dies, and then she thinks she's come back to haunt her, make her life a living hell. This one is also staying. This is Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. Another one that I just really want to read. Something, you know, things about like toxic friendships gone wrong kind of a thing. I'm pretty sure, so right up my alley. I've also had on here Grim Company by Luke Skull. This is a grim dark fantasy novel, and I will get to this, but I think for now it's going back on my shelf. Also, From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I think I'm gonna leave this on here for now. I do want to read it, but mostly this is staying on because I want to prioritize it. My friend who, my like only in-person reader friend, my only like real life friend that I have that reads a lot. I mean, besides my sister-in-law, she also reads. But like she reads a lot of like romantasy and like romance stuff. So it's like she doesn't read horror books. So it's like if I want to talk with her about books, I've got to read these. And she's like, hey, have you read From Blood and Ash yet? Because I told her I had it. And like I do like these most of the time. So that's why I bought it years ago and haven't read it. I bought like the first and second book at the same time. Why did I do that? I don't even know if I like it, but I would like to prioritize this so that we can fucking chat about it. She's like, oh, I think she said the last book is coming out. The last book is coming out, I think. So there's like a lot of fucking books in that series too. Then The Book of M by Pong Shepherd. What's this one about again? I know this is like apocalyptic. One afternoon at an outdoor market in India, a man's shadow disappears, an occurrence that science cannot explain. He's only the first. The phenomena spreads like a plague, and while those afflicted gain a new strange power, the magic comes at a terrible price, the loss of all their memories. Okay, so I think this one for now is going to go back on my shelf. I've also got Smashed by Junji Ito on here. That's gonna stay. Full Immersion by Gemma Moore. This one is going to stay. This is about, I feel like I remember this also being a book about like postpartum stuff, but I'm not getting that in the synopsis. Anyway, it says, what can you do when you're reeling from trauma, but you've tried it all? Counseling, yoga, pills, meditation, art, healthy living, none of it makes a dent. What's left? And I feel like also there's like some sort of computer stuff in here. So this one's gonna stay for now. 3 more. We've got the last one by Alexandra Oliva. This one is about a reality TV show, so this one's gonna stay. I love that kind of stuff. Then we've got Hearts, Strange and Dreadful by Tim McGregor. This one I'm going to keep on there. And The Book of 3 by Lloyd Alexander, which is, if you've watched it, the fucking, like what The Black Cauldron is based off of, the Disney movie, which is one of my all-time favorite Disney movies. This is the start for The Chronicles of Prydain. It's about Taran, the assistant pig keeper. He's got a pig called Henwin that can see the future. A very beautiful little piggy who he's got to keep safe. And so this is gonna stay here too. Okay, so we've cleared off the shelf, we've made some space, we've figured out what's staying and what's leaving. And now we've got to figure out what can fit back on here. That's the hard part. So I'm going to choose a couple things. We'll see if they fit. How many books did I pull off here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I'm gonna start by picking 9 books and seeing if that's what my cart can fit, and hopefully, maybe it does. If it doesn't, I'll have to put some back, or maybe I'll be able to pick more. Who knows? It depends on what I pick, I suppose. So let me get over to my bookshelves and we'll chit chat about what I should pick. Okay, here I am again at my bookshelves where my books have not been read yet. But we're gonna fucking read these books, okay? We're gonna pick these books, we're gonna put wait. We're gonna pick these books, we're gonna put them on my cart, and then they're not gonna be read immediately. I lied. It's a trick. It's a trap. Okay, but I'm gonna pick some books and they are gonna go in my TBR cart. So, obviously, I start by looking at my horror shelves and thinking about what horrors I'd like to choose off my shelves. One I would like to put on here, Grind Your Bones to Dust by Nicholas Day. This is about a serial killer, a mass murderer, I don't know. It says, a surveyor finds himself pursued by flesh-eating donkeys in the furthest reaches of Oregon's desert. A mass murderer leaves the sanctity of his mountain home to pursue a long-lost love, his guide an otherworldly raven possessed by a 19th century American humorist. In nearby Klamath Falls, 2 estranged childhood friends set off to find a missing father with the help of 2 aging cowboys, and a prisoner in her own home sees a vision of death and knows there's no escape. Pain is proselytizing, death is the one true faith, and everyone worships in their due time. Wait, so is this a short story collection? No. It sounds good though. I like the nihilism. So, this is my first book. I'd also like to put on my TBR cart The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. You know, I've just heard his books are great, and he's got at least 3 out that I've heard are great, right? And I have one of them and I haven't fucking read it, so I'd like to do that. This says, buried in debt due to his young daughter's illness, his marriage at the brink, Mario reluctantly takes up a job as a hitman, surprising himself with his proclivity for violence. After tragedy destroys the life he knew, Mario agrees to one final job, hijacking a drug cartel's cash shipment before it reaches Mexico. As the 3 complicated men travel through the endless Texas landscape, across border and back, their hidden motivations are laid bare alongside nightmarish encounters that defy explanation. So this sounds really in the vein of S.A. Cosby, which I fucking love, so that makes me even more excited to pick this up. I'm also gonna put on my cart The Crimson Labyrinth by Yusuke Kishi. This I had on one of my TBRs this year and I just did not get to it. But this is about a man who wakes up inside this labyrinth. He meets another woman there, but I believe she has hearing loss. So I'm not sure if... It says she has a hearing aid, which leads me to believe that she can hear. She just maybe has, you know, a level of hearing loss. They have some portable device that gives them instructions and then they just have to find their way out of this labyrinth. So this is one that, oh my god, I was looking for a used copy for literally like 10 fucking years. And then eventually I was just like, what the fuck? And I went onto eBay and found a new copy for, I don't know, maybe like $15, $16, $17. So it really wasn't that expensive. Not that expensive to just buy a new copy. Why didn't I just do that? I don't know why. But okay, this is book number 3. All right, I am also going to put on here Goblin by Josh Malerman. This is one of my favorite authors, but I haven't read quite all of his books yet. I still haven't read Goblin, which is a novel in 6 novellas about a town called Goblin. For book number 5, I'm choosing The House of Small Shadows by Adam Neville, another author I really love, but I've only read 3 of his books. So I've got 3 others, including this one, that I haven't read yet. I'd love to pick up more of his stuff. This says, Catherine's last job ended badly. Corporate bullying at a top antiques publication saw her fired and forced to leave London, but she was determined to get her life back. A new job and a few therapists later, things look much brighter, especially when a challenging new project presents itself. To catalog Britain's greatest taxidermist, ooh, I do love taxidermy, the late M.H. Mason's wildly eccentric cachet of antique dolls and preserved animals poised in elaborate dioramas. Rarest of all, she'll get to examine his elaborate displays of posed, costumed, and preserved animals depicting bloody scenes from World War I. When Mason's elderly niece arrives... Oh, Mason, the guy. It's like... her niece is elderly? When Mason's elderly niece arrives... or invites her to stay at the Red House itself, Catherine believes that her luck is finally changing. She's thrilled to maintain the collection until his niece exposes her to the dark message behind her uncle's art. Catherine tries to concentrate on the job, but Mason's damaged vision begins to raise dark shadows from her own past. Shadows she'd hoped therapy had finally erased. Soon, the barriers between reality, sanity, and memory start to merge, and some truths seem too terrible to be real. Ooh, I guess that's why there's a doll on the cover. So, that is book number 5. Also, I am dying to read Flowers from the Void, one of the raddest fucking covers I've ever seen in my life. This is by Johnny Washington, and this is an anthology... I believe, no, short story collection, not an anthology. This is by Gianni Washington, not edited by. So it says, 13 dark tales are told through lenses of Black, female, and queer narrators, among others, which burrow deep into the heart of the Gothic to challenge the conventional nightmare. Sounds great. Like, oh, look at this cover. What a great cover! I love this cover so much. One of my favorite covers on a book I've gotten this year. I know it's like not very fucking fancy, but it reminds me of like a doom metal cover. It's just like psychedelic and excellent. I love it. Okay, so that's book number 6. And let's look at some non-horror shit now, okay? I mean, I think I will be able to fit more than 9 books on there because I can put some like behind the other books, but let's see here. Let's see. We can always come back for more horror. Once I've added these to the cart, we can see where we are. So what I see right away here. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. This is one I've wanted to read for forever. I bought it and like, I just didn't read it. This is a dystopian novel. It says, when global climate change and economic crisis lead to social chaos in the early 2020s. Can I read this? Can I read this right now, or am I gonna... California, am I gonna have a fucking breakdown if I read this? Becomes full of dangers from pervasive water shortage. Wait, I feel like I'm having a spike in my anxiety just reading this fucking... There's a book Erin Brockovich wrote about the California water crisis, and I want to read it because I want to be informed, but I am so fucking worried that it's just going to make me so miserable every day of my life living here that I can't read it. Okay. To masses of vagabonds who will do anything to live to see another day. 15-year-old Lauren Olamina lives inside a gated community with her preacher father, family, and neighbors, sheltered from the surrounding anarchy. In a society where any vulnerability is a risk, she suffers from hyperempathy, a debilitating sensitivity to others' emotions. Precocious and clear-eyed, Lauren must make her voice heard in order to protect her loved ones from the imminent disasters her small community stubbornly ignores. But what begins as a fight for survival soon leads to something much more, the birth of a new faith and a startling vision of human destiny. Is it a mistake to put this book on my cart? I do want to read it. I feel like, you know, Octavia Butler's writing is known for being like very important and I want to read it. But like, it sounds so scary in like a real life sense. And I like this dystopian novel is telling the story of our fucking lives now. This shouldn't be happening. Oh, how cute. How cute is that? I hate it. Okay, what else here? What else? What should we put on here? What's calling to me? I really would love to read this is a big chunky book, but Babel by R.F. Kuang. I read her series, oh god, what is it called now? The Dragon War, I think it was called. And I really liked the first book, didn't really like the second book, didn't really like the third book, but I loved the first book so much. I thought it had like such a really interesting idea, and I know that it had some, I'm pretty sure I remember it having some real Chinese history in it. Something that I'm not very educated in, so I can't even tell you. It was like, it was real, right? I think, as you can tell, not very educated in world history because I come from the US where we are not taught that kind of shit. And then, you know, when you don't know that you don't know that, it's easy to continue not knowing that, if I'm being honest. So anyway, she also wrote this book called Babel, which is about the Tower of Babel. So it says, Oxford, 1836, the city of dreaming spires. It is the center of all knowledge and progress in the world. At its heart is Babel, Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, the tower from which all power of the empire flows. Orphaned in Canton and brought to England by a mysterious guardian, Robin Swift thought Babel a paradise until it became a prison. But can a student stand against an empire? So I have this really beautiful edition that I believe, yeah, came from Fairy Loot. And I haven't read it yet. It's a chunky book, but I like to read it. Her book was called The Poppy War, and the second one was called The Dragon Republic, which is why I got mixed up. But The Poppy War was the name of the first novel in her series. Okay, that's book number 8. What else are we putting on here? Okay, we're also putting on here this book I've had on so many fucking TBRs. I want to read it, and then I don't. This is called This Little Family by Inez Bayard. She is a French author. This is translated by Adriana Hunter, and this is about a woman who is the victim of a sexual assault. And around this time, her and her partner are also trying to get pregnant, and so like you can imagine what happens when after an assault, when you're trying for a pregnancy, like what happens then? And you find out you're pregnant, and then what happens? You just, what a terrible conundrum to be in. I do not envy that, like terrible. It says, Marie closes herself off in a destructive silence, ultimately leading her to commit an irreparable act. So I pre-ordered this book and I still haven't read it. I pre-ordered this when it came out. I think this was during the fucking pandemic. Like during the heavy times of the pandemic. 2020 is when it was translated and put out in English. It was first published in 2018 in France, or in French. So this is number 9. I'm going to put these on my on my book cart and see how much room I have left, because I do want to put some nonfiction on there as well. I've definitely got room for more books. So what are we gonna put on there? All right, my next pick is Sex Cult Nun by Faith Jones. This was about a woman growing up in the Children of God, which is, oh, crazy. They've changed their names a couple times. They've changed the name of their group a couple times because some really bad things have happened in that organization. That organization teaches some really harmful things. So I would read about it. I think I'd also like to add on here a book that I've had for quite some time. This is about the West Memphis 3. This is The Devil's Knot by Mara Leverett. If you haven't heard about this case, this is definitely one of those ones where it's like, if you could solve any of them. I think it was 2 or 3 young boys died, and their bodies were like weighed down in a creek. They were found, and it was really blamed on like three like small town weirdos, right? And one of them has a lower IQ, didn't have parents with him when he was being interrogated, and he ended up giving a false confession, which incriminated two of his other acquaintances. I'm not even really sure if these boys were like friends at the time, and boy, it was just like a huge saga. So like in all, I don't think that the evidence suggests that these 3 men who were also boys at the time of the murders killed those boys. I think it was, yeah, 3 boys, okay. I don't think that these 3 boys killed the 3 younger boys. But then who did is like the most terrifying part of this. Is like that those murders were horrible, and someone, I think personally, got away with that, and they're still getting away with that. And because of the conviction of these boys, the case is closed. Basically, I'm fairly certain. They ended up taking an Alfred plea, which is where you say, I'm pleading not guilty to this. However, I understand that the court has enough evidence to convict me of this crime. And since they had spent so much time in prison, up to that point, after their conviction with the Alfred plea, whatever deal that they had at that point, they were able to be done with their prison time, which was great, I think, because I don't think that the teenage boys killed the younger boys. But anyway, see, I mean, this case is just really interesting and terrible, fucking terrible, and I'd like to read about it. Okay, another nonfiction I'd like to put on my TBR cart. This is Indianapolis by Lynn Vincent and Sarah Vladeck. This is about the SS Indianapolis, which was a ship, a naval ship. It says, the true story of the worst sea disaster in the U.S. naval history and the 50-year fight to exonerate an innocent man. Oh, I don't know about the innocent man part, so that's interesting. But I do know that the USS Indianapolis, it says, just after midnight, July 30th, 1945, they were delivering parts of an atomic bomb to the West Coast, and they were hit with a missile, I believe, and so the ship fucking exploded, right? But is that the worst part? No, the worst part is that they were stranded at sea, and sharks started to eat some of the men. Terrible. Like, they were stranded at sea for days, like starving, you know, oh my god, just horrible. 5 nights and 4 days stranded at sea. And I don't mean like fun stranded at sea. I mean like holding on to bits of ships. You know what I mean? Bits of the ship. Whatever is floating in the water. Oh my god, terrifying. Anyway, I really like sharks. I think they get a bad rap. But I wouldn't want to be eaten by a shark after my fucking Navy ship exploded. What else do we put on this cart? I'd also like to put on my cart A Beginning at the End by Mike Chen. I've heard good things about his writing. I've bought 2 of his books, so... This says, 6 years after a global pandemic wiped out most of the planet's population, the survivors are rebuilding the country, split between self-governing cities, hippie communes, and wasteland gangs. In a post-apocalyptic San Francisco, former pop star Moira has created her new identity to finally escape her past, until her domineering father launches a sweeping public search to track her down. So she meets some friends, and there's reports of another outbreak, which puts the fragile society into panic. Really, I've just heard good things about Mike Chen's writing, and I hear that the endings of his stories are always hopeful, which is something I feel like I might need right now. It's not feeling very hopeful in the US right now, in my opinion. Not very fucking hopeful at all. So maybe reading something like that will help me pretend like I'm feeling hopeful. Fuck. All right, I grabbed a couple here from the same shelf. First, Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. This is about, I read her book Penance and I really enjoyed it. But mostly I hear people talking about her book Boy Parts. So I'm glad that I bought both of them. And do you see how I'm reading it? It's been a few months, but it hasn't been years. I'm trying to be better about this. This is about a woman who is involved in the art scene, and she starts doing bad things to, I think, people and also herself. Also, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Haven't read this. This is like it says it's one of the funniest books ever written. Can you just say that though? Can you just say that on the back of your book? I mean, not that Joseph Heller wrote this, or Joseph Heller wrote the back of the book. I think he might not be alive any longer, but a malingering bombardier. Honestly, I don't know what this is fucking about. I think I bought this because Zach said that he liked it. He had to read it for school and he liked it. And like, Zach is he's not a reader who likes school books, you know what I mean? He's more of a genre reader. So if he said he read a book that he liked a book that he read for school, I'm gonna pick it up. I also feel like, is this a dystopian novel? I think it might be, or like something that, I don't know. I'm gonna read it. I'm putting it on my fucking cart. I'm curious about it. Then, Touch of Jen. This is about 2 friends. I think they're friends. Maybe they're not so much friends, but their relationship revolves around being obsessed with I think a co-worker who is Jen. And I'd like to read this. I need to, you know what? I should put my other butt books on here too, if they fit. So that is also Acts of Desperation and Suicide Blonde. This is by Darcy Stenke, and this is about another woman involved in the art scene. She gets, she starts working for a woman named, I think, Miss Piggy, and Miss Piggy's daughter, like, involves her in, like, a more underground, I think, like, kink scene, if I'm remembering correctly. And then Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan is about a self-destructive woman. And don't we all love it? In fiction. Because I want all my ladies in real life to be happy and healthy and not self-destructive, because we don't need that right now. We need happy, healthy ladies. So, I think that's it for my cart. I'm not sure if all these will fit on here. So that is, that's my TBR cart. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know if you've read any of these, if there's any I should make sure to prioritize, because I can pick these. I don't have to wait for like drawing them randomly. because for a while I was like, oh, I want to read these books. I put them on my TBR cart and then I just never fucking touched them. It's like they stopped existing once they came off my bookshelf. I think that is like a weird brain thing. So that's why I started doing the rolling thing every month, but I think that also helps me just remember that that is a space that I can pick books from. Even though these are books I'm excited for. It's really dumb and weird. But I'd love to know if you've, like I said, if you read any of these, if there's any you really loved, any that you think I should prioritize. And that's it. Thank you for watching. I will see you later. Goodbye.